Vice Media, from $5 billion to bankruptcy. In the early 2000s, while traditional news outlets clung to their legacy models, a brash, boundary-pushing voice emerged from Montreal. Vice Media, founded by Shane Smith, Soroush Alvi, and Gavin McInnes, began as a free punk magazine. A blend of counterculture, music, and shock journalism. What started as a raw, underground publication capturing skate culture and subversive fashion quickly grew into something much bigger. Vice found its voice by speaking directly to a generation that didn't trust the mainstream. The content was chaotic, gritty, and unapologetically bold. By the mid-2000s, Vice had moved its headquarters to New York and was expanding online with bizarre documentaries and youth-driven content. Their edgy tone, taboo topics, and devil-may-care style made them a magnet for millennials. But the true transformation began in the 2010s. Gone was the grunge zine aesthetic, replaced by a multi-platform media empire. Vice.com became one of the most visited millennial news sites in the world. Their YouTube channel exploded, featuring gritty, unfiltered dispatches from war zones, red light districts, and political uprisings. Their flagship series, Vice News Tonight, took viewers inside places mainstream outlets wouldn't go. Vice reporters embedded with ISIS, exposed drug cartels, and interviewed North Korean defectors. They weren't just doing journalism, they were living it. Vice blurred the line between reporting and adventure storytelling, all while wearing leather jackets and refusing to play by the rules. By 2017, Vice Media was valued at $5.7 billion. Major players were throwing money at it. Disney invested over $400 million. Vice was hailed as the future of journalism, raw, digital-first, and anti-establishment. Shane Smith, the bearded co-founder and CEO, was on magazine covers, giving TED Talks, and making outrageous predictions about Vice outgrowing CNN. But beneath the swagger, cracks were already forming. As the 2010s marched on, the media landscape began to shift, and Vice, once the cool kid at the table, struggled to adapt. At first, it was algorithmic. Vice had mastered viral content through Facebook and YouTube, but in 2018, Facebook changed its algorithm to prioritize posts from friends and family over publishers. Vice's traffic plummeted. Meanwhile, advertisers became more cautious. Brands no longer wanted to appear next to videos about heroin addicts or war criminals. Vice was also burning through cash. It launched Viceland, a full-fledged cable TV channel, which tanked in ratings and failed to bring in major ad revenue. It expanded too fast, opening offices around the world, launching a record label, and investing in verticals like Vice Sports, Broadly for women, and Motherboard. Internally, the culture was unraveling. In 2017, the New York Times published a bombshell expose about sexual harassment and toxic behavior at Vice. The article detailed multiple allegations against senior executives, a frat boy work culture. The irony was painful. The outlet that often covered social justice issues couldn't protect its own employees. 3 top executives were placed on leave. Shane Smith stepped down as CEO, replaced by Nancy Dubuc, a respected executive from A&E Networks. Dubuc promised reform and financial discipline, but she walked into a mess. By 2019, Vice had laid off hundreds of staff. Many of its verticals were quietly shuttered or merged. High-profile partnerships ended. The promised IPO never came. Vice wasn't a sleek disruptor anymore. It was a bloated company chasing a shrinking attention span. Even worse, Vice's foray into film and television, Vice Studios, failed to gain sustainable traction. Shows like Gaycation and Hate Thy Neighbor earned critical praise but lacked mass-market impact. Their HBO show Vice was canceled after 7 seasons. Netflix passed on further collaborations. It became clear that Vice could no longer compete in the premium docuseries space. Between 2020 and 2023, Vice Media's collapse accelerated. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed deep structural problems. Ad dollars vanished. Video shoots were canceled. Viewership declined. And Vice's sprawling empire, built on the idea of being everywhere at once, suddenly became a liability. Viceland was rebranded as Vice TV, but continued to hemorrhage money. Vice also acquired Refinery 29, but the merger was chaotic. Cultures clashed. Teams were laid off. Traffic dropped. Many Refinery 29 fans felt alienated by Vice's abrasive voice. Meanwhile, newer competitors emerged. YouTube creators, TikTok reporters, and independent journalists on Substack started doing what Vice once did best: authentic, fearless storytelling. But with leaner teams and fresher voices, Vice's dominance faded fast. Behind closed doors, morale plummeted. Slack channels became ghost towns. Employee exits accelerated. The company failed to meet revenue targets year after year. Massive internal memos leaked. Attempts at union busting soured public perception further. In 2023, Vice filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The announcement shocked no one. Valued at over $5 billion just a few years earlier, the company was now being sold for just $225 million to a consortium of lenders led by Fortress Investment Group. Hundreds of employees were laid off. Departments were gutted. Foreign offices closed. Signature shows were canceled or sold. The very identity of the company, raw, global, fearless journalism, was reduced to a collection of fractured assets. Insiders described the environment as apocalyptic. Once buzzing newsrooms sat empty. Goodbye messages flooded inboxes. Even longtime fans felt betrayed. What had been the voice of a generation had become just another broken media dream. Today, Vice exists in name only. A gutted shell bought at a discount, stripped of the spirit that once made it iconic. But the story of Vice isn't just about poor management or market forces. It's about a fundamental misreading of what media needed to become. Vice tried to be too many things at once: a news network, a cable channel, a lifestyle brand, an ad agency. In chasing growth, it lost focus. It alienated its core audience. And worst of all, it betrayed its own ideals. When Nancy Dubuque took over as CEO, she was supposed to bring structure. And to her credit, she tried. She cracked down on the chaos, brought in executives from traditional media, trimmed underperforming verticals, and sought out licensing deals to generate real revenue. But in doing so, she also triggered an identity crisis. What was Vice now? No longer the rebellious underdog, but not quite a respectable news institution either. Legacy media didn't respect it. Its Gen Z audience didn't connect with it, and advertisers no longer saw it as cool, just confused. Vice had grown too corporate to be edgy, and too edgy to be mainstream. Dubuque's efforts to professionalize the company clashed with the very DNA that once made it great. Morale remained low, and the staff that remained after wave of layoffs were stuck between nostalgia and survival mode. What followed was a slow drift toward irrelevance. While competitors evolved, Vice doubled down on its brand mythology, hoping people would still see them as disruptors when, in truth, they were now just chasing relevance. And that desperation showed in everything from their strategy to their content. By the time bankruptcy hit, Vice wasn't a media rebel anymore. It was just another company that lost its why. Yet, for all its failures, Vice leaves behind a complicated legacy. It redefined visual journalism, inspired a generation of bold reporters, and forced traditional newsrooms to wake up. It proved that storytelling could be immersive, emotional, and wildly unconventional. It made young people care about news. It gave us perspectives from the front lines of Syria, Ukraine, Venezuela, and beyond. And for a moment, it made the establishment afraid. Vice taught the industry that younger audiences crave authenticity, but it forgot that authenticity must be earned. not branded. It proved you can't run a newsroom like a frat house, even if your content is Pulitzer-worthy. And it's a cautionary tale for every media startup that thinks venture capital and virality are enough. Vice proved that without a clear identity and culture, growth becomes cancerous. When Nancy Dubuque left the company in early 2023, even she couldn't reverse the spiral. Now, all that remains is a logo, some archived articles, and a graveyard of abandoned dreams. The media world moved on, but Vice's story still echoes. Be loud, be fearless, but never lose your soul. This was the story of Vice. For more rise and fall stories, subscribe to Legacy Lost.